What's up, guys? Welcome back to the garage. Gerald here with you. What are my favorite movies of 2021 so far? We are at the halfway point, a little past the halfway point, actually. I've been meaning to do this for a while. But what I'm going to do tonight is I'm just going to give you my top 5 movies, 2021 films that I've seen this year so far, halfway through the year. And what will be interesting to see is if any of these show up at the end of the year. And I'll give you some honorable mentions at the end as well that didn't quite make the cut for my top 5. Let's get into it. My number 5 movie of the year thus far is a quirky comedy called Shiva Baby. Make sure you guys check this one out. It stars Rachel Sennott and Molly Gordon in a bit of a kind of like love triangle kind of juggling act that our lead character Danielle is going through in this movie, portrayed by Rachel Sennott. This is an awesome first-time directing job by female director Emma Seligman. I really enjoyed this film. It is cute, it is funny, it's touching. It is an awesome film, and it's one of the more tender films that I've seen this year, where it makes you laugh, it makes you cry. I really connected to this movie, even though I'm not Jewish. I can imagine if you're in the Jewish community, it would even speak to you even more. But I highly recommend you go out and check out Shiva Baby immediately. It is streaming on demand. All right, perhaps a little bit of controversy around my number 4. This is actually a 2019 movie that I'm putting in my top 5 films of 2021 so far. And the reason being is because I'm going on the US release date. I'm in the States. It came out in January of 2021 here in America, and then it was released on demand, which is how I saw it, in February. It was released at film festivals initially in 2019, like I said, and then it made its way to the UK in 2020, and not to America until 2021. So going purely based on the release dates, I had to include it. I actually sought some advice out from some friends of mine. I said, can I include this? Like, everything I'm seeing says 2019 or 2020. And they're like, yes, it didn't come out here until January. So for that reason, Rose Glass's Saint Maud, the A24 psychological horror film, is my number 4 film of the year so far. Such an unnerving character study into Maud, this character portrayed by Morfydd Clark, who absolutely nailed this role. Her character in this movie walks such a fine line between innocence and lunacy in this film. You can tell she's right on the cusp of doing something extremely horrifying and horrible to the people that are also in this story, but at the same time she thinks it's the right thing to do. She's a very misguided and conflicted character, and Morfydd Clark's performance and Rose Glass's direction of this film are unlike anything I've seen in a long time, and it is definitely one of the best films of this year. I highly recommend Saint Maud, especially if you're into those independent psychological horror films. My number 3 is not Saint Maud. It is The Mitchells versus the Machines. Nothing like Saint Maud. This is an animated film in the style of Lord Miller. Lord Miller are the producers on this film, so it's very similar to like the Spider-Verse vibes, Into the Spider-Verse, which is a film that I love from a couple years ago. So it really does have that kind of groundbreaking animation, hand-drawn animation mixed with digital animation. And then on top of just that visual amazement that you see on the screen, it's a wonderful story. This young girl, Katie, who is voice acted beautifully by Abby Jacobson, is basically an aspiring film student, and she's a movie nerd. She's a movie geek. I am too, and so are a lot of people that connect to this movie. And she tells her story and kind of her woes of her life and of growing up through making movies and through watching movies. She wants to go to film school and continue to make movies professionally. And so that's kind of an end for us as the viewer as well. And this robot apocalypse is taking over the world, and it's up to this quirky family, the Mitchells, to save the world. As you will see as we get into my list here, the best animated movie that I've seen thus far this year, even though there's been a lot of great ones. It is my number 3 of 2021 thus far. All right, my number 2, my runner-up for 2021 so far, is a movie that I just saw about a week ago. This is a film that got a limited US release last month, and it is available on demand now, which is how I was able to see it. It's a Danish film called Riders of Justice, starring Mr. Mads Mikkelsen, who wowed me in another round last year. He is even better in this movie. This movie is an action film. It's a revenge film, but it's also kind of a dark comedy as well. Mads Mikkelsen and his daughter are dealing with a tragedy. He's ex-military in the film. He's a high caliber, like Jason Bourne type character. That's how awesome he is and was in the military, and he's known for that. But him and his daughter are dealing with this tragedy. They're trying to overcome it. They're trying to move on with their lives. And they find out that maybe the tragedy that they are suffering from, maybe that wasn't an accident. Maybe there were other factors involved and people involved that caused the accident that is now the cause of their grief. And so that's where the revenge plot comes in with some other quirky characters that get introduced to the story. And they're called Riders of Justice. They kind of form this little group of dads or whatever and just go out to get revenge. It's a lot of fun. You got to deal with subtitles because it is a foreign film. But Mads Mikkelsen is freaking awesome in this movie. This movie absolutely blew me away. I thought, like, hey, let's put on this fun action movie. I love Mads in Another Round. I just saw that a few months ago. Like, let's see what he's got. Let's do it. Blew me away. It's, as you can see, one of the best movies I've seen this year. I highly recommend Riders of Justice, which is available to stream on demand. All right, and the number one movie that I have seen thus far in 2021, as we are sitting here in mid-July, is A Quiet Place Part 2, John Krasinski's sequel to the wildly successful A Quiet Place from 2018. And the reason I love it is because it picks up with the same narrative after we get that little snippet that you've seen in some of the trailers of kind of the prequel and how the aliens and monsters got to Earth. We get that, which is a beautiful cold open. I absolutely love the opening of A Quiet Place 2. And then it just kind of picks up where the first movie left off. It follows this family led by Emily Blunt. Millicent Simmons is back, Noah Jupe, and they are so charismatic. We get introduced to a new character in Cillian Murphy, who added so much to the story and added a whole nother layer to this universe that Krasinski has created here for A Quiet Place. It's really a very, very similar movie to the first one. It is a recipe that Krasinski followed, not to the letter, but very close. But what was able to happen in this movie is the improvements on the technical side. So the story is very similar, and we know we love it if you love the original film. But then you improve so many things technically. I already mentioned Cillian Murphy's addition to this movie, but the editing in this film is freaking phenomenal. There's an intercutting sequence that I mentioned on my review when I did a review on this channel. I mean, as an editor, there's nothing I've ever seen that amazing, that they just cut back and forth these scenes so seamlessly. It was really impressive. The score is amazing by Beltrami. I just love this movie so much, and I think that it is on par with the original, which is also impressive because sequels just typically don't do that. I mean, of course, every once in a while it does happen, and I think now A Quiet Place 2 can put itself in that conversation as being, if not better than, at least as good as the original, and I think it is. It's the best movie I've seen thus far as we get into our 7th month of the year here in 2021. All right, so those were my 5 favorite movies that I personally have seen so far this year. I just want to give a few honorable mentions that didn't crack the top 5 real quick. I'm not going to say a whole lot about them except just to mention them real quick because I do love these movies so much. Okay, and the first one I want to mention in regards to that is Bo Burnham's Inside. The reason that is not in my top 5 is because I personally decided not to categorize that as a film. It is a comedy special, and I was doing a lot of reading about it. I know some of my friends in the film community are categorizing it as a film this year when they do their rankings, and some of them already have done mid-year rankings, and it was on there. It would pretty easily crack my top 5. I absolutely loved it, but I did some reading. It's going to be eligible for Emmys, which is television. It's going to be up for comedy special, comedy TV special. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Bo Burnham and to Inside because I thought it was a phenomenal look at comedy during the pandemic. And it was amazing, and it was one of the most transcendent experiences I've had watching a thing this year. So Bo Burnham's Inside. I also loved a movie called North Hollywood. I think you guys should check it out because it is drastically underseen. Every time I mention this movie, nobody's heard of it, but it's a coming-of-age skater story. It follows a kid who wants to be a pro skateboarder in North Hollywood. His dad's played by Vince Vaughn, and Vince Vaughn chews this role. He's so good in it, but he's playing the reasonable dad, like, hey, dude, you're not going to be a skater. Like, come with me, work construction, like, make a name for yourself. Go to college, do something that you can actually do. You can't skate for a living. And it's a pretty common tale in a coming-of-age story, the parents against the kids. But it's done with a really fresh vibe, being that it's the skater aesthetic in Hollywood. So I really enjoyed North Hollywood. That was one of my favorite movies of the year. Also, Judas and the Black Messiah. Daniel Kaluuya, Lakeith Stanfield, an amazing supporting cast. Fred Hampton's story is a very important story. This was a very hard-hitting film that's also very important. It was on HBO Max initially. It was in theaters. It got a ton of Oscar love at this past Oscar season, which means it will not be eligible for the next Oscar season. But it is a 2021 release. I'm not going by Oscar releases, so I love that movie. I most recently saw a movie starring Megan Fox called Till Death. I absolutely love that home invasion kind of horror film. Make sure you check out Till Death. It just came out last week on demand. But Megan Fox gets handcuffed to her dead husband's corpse in their secluded lake house in the winter. And she has to find a way to get free of him in more ways than one. And then she has to find a way to escape because there's other factors involved that are keeping her there at the lake house as a bit of a prisoner. So it takes on a home invasion genre effect. And I loved it. It was really good. Megan Fox was A+ in that movie. The other animated film that would be my top 10 as of right now would be Luca, Disney Pixar's Luca, which is available on Disney+. I mentioned that when I did my lowdown last month, but that's a great film. It's a story about friendship, and it's a story about wanting to be accepted. And that's really what that movie's about, and it's told through the lens of these kind of like harmless children, young boys. And it was very innocent and beautiful in that way. And the animation, I don't even have to tell you, is obviously stellar because it's Pixar. Check out Luca if you have Disney+. It is a great movie. And then the last one I want to shout out that would be my top 10 right now is a romantic comedy / sci-fi film. You heard that right, called Long Weekend. And much like North Hollywood, Long Weekend is drastically underseen. People just don't know about it. It is available to stream on demand. I highly recommend you check it out because what it is a romantic comedy about two down-on-their-luck people that get together and spend a long weekend together. But it has a lot of plot twists in it and a lot of unexpected developments occur that really shook me because when you watch a rom-com, you don't expect to say things like that. It's pretty formulaic. This was unlike any romantic comedy I've seen. Damon Wayans Jr. and Casey Wilson of Happy Endings, if you know that television show up in this as kind of the comic relief, the buddies in the film, the kind of sub-buddies, and they are hilarious in the movie. Long Weekend is a great film. I highly recommend it. If anyone likes rom-coms, check it out because it is something fresh in that genre that you should see. So there you go, guys. That's just a few films that I loved in 2021 thus far. We are a little over the official halfway mark of the year. I always, on my podcast, do my top 5 movies of the year with some special guests. So it will be interesting to see if any of these movies end up making my top 5 of the year once it's over. I don't know. There's some that I could see still lingering around 6 months from now. We'll see how it goes. What are your favorite movies of 2021 that you've seen thus far? I really, really want to know. Please hit me with it in the comments down below. Let me know. Also, let me know what you thought of my list. And please subscribe to this channel. It really helps me out. I'll see you guys next time, sometime soon, in the garage.